Welcome to the Classroom Café, where it's all about brewing the conversation between fellow educators. This special presentation is brought to you by the United Federation of Teachers and the union's Member Assistance Program. Thank you for joining us today. We hope this podcast inspires you, nourishes you, and motivates you. Now let's get started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Classroom Café. We have a very special episode for you today. As the school year is winding down for the summer, we wanted to help you get prepared for a summer recharge. Because educators are encouraged to focus so much of their energy on others and so little on themselves, self-care is necessary in order to help maintain good mental health habits. This is not just for educators, though. Whether you're a 12-month employee or you're working for summer session, there is something to gain for everyone. As always, here with us is our wonderful co-host and math clinician, and who has a whole host of other titles, Janice Acosta.
Hi, everyone. I'm Janice Acosta, Clinical Coordinator at the UFT Member Assistance Program. Selma, it's always great to be here with you.
Of course, we love you, Janice. And also today, as a special guest, we have our MAP director. She makes all the things happen, Tina Puccio.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me and thanks for being with us.
Oh, she's so humble. and I'm going to go through and name all of our MAP clinicians that are here today. We've got Kathleen Regalado.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Of course, Kathy. Want to tell the people about what you do here at MAP?
Sure. I am the Senior Clinical Administrator here at the Member Assistance Program. I wear a number of hats, but primarily I would say that my job is a therapist and counselor.
Very, very important job. We've also got Steven Sulzer.
Hello.
Steve, you want to tell the people a little bit about what you do here at MAP?
Sure. So I'm a clinical consultant. I do individual counseling. I run groups during the school year, and I provide clinical supervision to some of the MAP PM clinicians.
Awesome. And last, but certainly not least, we are joined by someone who is not a stranger to MAP. He is the Director of Crisis Intervention, Alain Metellus. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alain Metellus, Director of Crisis Intervention. Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Of course. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us.
So as someone mentioned, we want to share some tips that we use as clinicians to help us really hone in on self-care. With the summer just around the corner, we really want all of our listeners to start to focus inward to really recharge their batteries. So let's start off with our director, Tina. Tina, what are some things that you do for yourself to engage in self-care?
Sure, thank you. I would say, I like to do a lot of things to provide myself with self-care, but the one go-to for me is, in general, is exercise. I enjoy making time for whether it be a Pilates class. I just started to try out something called Rumble, which is a boxing class combined with some other types of cardio. I like to do so either early in the morning or after work. I think it's a really great mental release for me. It allows me an opportunity to engage in something for myself and be away from my phone and from my computer, and just in a space where I know psychologically that I'm taking care of my mind, my body, and my spirit.
Mm-hmm. That was actually going to be my question of how, in what ways does the does exercise, how do you feel it positively impact you? Like, how do you know that this is something that is self-care for you?
Because when I don't do it, I feel really bad.
Mm.
So I think that's really a very important point for me. If I miss a few days, or if I thought I could, and then something came up that doesn't have me either go to my class or even just for a walk, which is really important for me too. I walk early mornings sometimes with some friends and just connect that way. I think it psychologically affects me in that I feel like it's something I committed to for myself and did not keep the commitment with. So I think it really supports me psychologically. And I also, in addition, it makes me feel good. It helps me know that, nutritiously, if I'm eating something that's not so great, that, there's a balance there between exercise and nutrition.
I love it. I think you pointed out two very important things. That you mentioned that you were away from your phone during this self-care activity. I think that's something that we often forget to do, especially in a world that's driven by technology, to unplug sometimes. We think of relaxation as Netflix and chill, right? But that's also a screen. That's something that is not allowing your body to be engaged as well. And so, which leads me to my next point that you brought up about when you don't do it, you feel bad. And so that tells me that you actually listen to your body, which is something that takes, some sort of awareness that that we don't always have. So how did you learn to listen to your body?
I think, many people perhaps who are even listening to this podcast can relate to burnout. I think the fact that, working all the time, especially coming out of what we just came out of, I got into this whole habit of just working all the time, especially working from home. You can certainly choose to do that. So I think it takes discipline, but it also takes a lot of commitment, right? We're so committed to so many things in our world, our families, we're committed to our children, we're committed to our parents, and we're committed to our staff and work and things like that. But we've got to keep whatever we know makes us feel good. We've got to keep the commitment to ourselves. And it takes a lot of discipline to do that, and a lot of positive self-talk to do that. But I think once you find what that ever is for you, that self-care component is for you, if you find that you can't commit to it for yourself, or you won't do it, maybe find a buddy, maybe find somebody who could hold you accountable to doing it. And creating some kind of a system where you maybe start once a week and then you build it up from there.
That's a great idea. But also pulling in, right, building a community around this self-care thing to help hold you accountable and make sure that you're doing what you've set out to do, which is take care of yourself.
Love that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing, Tina.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate you, giving us some insights, and I know that there are people that are listening that, might have fallen off of their personal regimen of exercise and getting their body moving. And this is a reminder to just get back in our bodies. And this is for me too, I'm speaking to me, to get moving again and really reap those benefits that fitness has to offer us with regard to self-care. Now that we've got a little more time, we've got a little more sunlight, it's the best time to move and get ourselves ready for the fall and the winter when we don't have as much time.
Yep, exactly. Just a walk outside around the corner. Just start that way and build it up.
Yeah, love it. I love it.
Thank you guys for having me.
Of course. Okay, I think now's a good time to transition to Kathy. Kathy, what are some ways that you engage yourself?
Hi, Selma. So, a couple years ago, my self-care routine included going bowling once a week. Every Friday, I would go for a couple hours. I know some people laugh at that because they're like, that's your self-care. But I used to do that. But, with the pandemic happening and, some life transitions, I started enjoying going outside, spending time with my son in the outdoors. But even that got a little bit difficult because, as a working mom, having to juggle those things, it could be a little
Oh yeah.
complicated. So what I've decided to
Mhm.
do recently is, shift the way I think about therapy, right?
Mm,
There's a huge misconception that, people only go to therapy when they're in crisis or when something
mm,
bad is happening in their lives. But sometimes just having somebody to talk to, so sort of, decompress, get some things off your chest, anything that you've been dealing with, on a daily basis, or even just like, as a clinician, we're listening to people's challenges all day. And that is something that, sometimes we carry around with us. So,
mm.
I think going to therapy, excuse me, and seeing it as, part of my self-care routine has really helped me, sort of remember to be in the moment.
Thank you, Kathy, for sharing that. I actually am a bowler myself, and I spent a lot of time prior, pre-pandemic bowling. I like to think about self-care from a three-tiered approach. So mind, body, and I like to refer to as spirit. And when I'm talking about the mind, for me, self-care could be reading a book and learning new things. In terms of the body piece, in terms of what Tina, my colleague, shared, is looking at health and fitness as being important from the nutrition piece. And I know Janice, our colleague, always is keeping up with nutrition and making beautiful salads in front of us. And she inspires me to continue to eat the right way and
Listen,
exercise. I think
I'm not myself without my greens.
so. It's important. So because Janice always does it, it's a reminder before I go to choose a bad option like maybe a fast food or something, how important it is. And I think it actually scientifically even has studies that prove things that you eat and also coupled with exercise, it helps out with self-care. And it's in self-care when you're sweating and you're burning endorphins and all these different things are happening, it allows us to release some stressors that we have. And in the
Yeah.
spiritual piece, I wasn't referring to necessarily faith or religion, but more of my being, right? And the folks that I choose to surround myself with.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
Having people that are in my corner, following up with mental health support that I have been for the past 5 years. And I think a lot of that keeps me grounded. So self-care for me and my friends and my comrades in my personal life, we like to refer to it as a moment, right? And we like chasing moments. And part of those moments would be, for instance, somebody going to get a pedicure or a massage, or maybe a small walk on the beach or a vacation. And those
Mhm.
are things that are purposeful and they allow us to enjoy company or be with self and start to target some of those feelings that are hard for us to gauge all the time and being able to release those at some point and make them purposeful. So it's important to have self-care moments daily.
Yeah, I like
Hmm.
that. I like Kathy's response with regard to therapy, and especially as therapists, we need that. And Alon, your responses kind of talked about community, like having others involved in your self-care. So even
Hmm.
though you're not alone, right, it can still be self-care and especially if you're an extrovert, like we all know Alon is, right? He is the biggest
I
extrovert.
am really shy, I promise.
Oh my God, he's shy on the third Thursday of every leap year. That's when he's shy. He's not,
That's pretty specific, Selma.
he's not shy at all. But knowing yourself, I think is important. I think that you love to be around people and you get energized from, other people who are positive or like-minded, and that gives you a charge, especially in the summer months when we have less responsibilities with work and we've got more daytime hours. That's a great time to infuse those things into our daily lives to help us
And
to build those things up for when hard times come.
And thank you for sharing that, because it was a perfect segue for me, for the listeners to hear. And maybe someone who's listening may have experienced that. For me, because yes, I am an extrovert, when we were challenged with the pandemic and being home, it was a lot for me to be able, and it also forced me to challenge myself to be alone, to be in my own thoughts, and to not always have someone there. And I think through mental health support, through having strong support systems, albeit in pieces because it was a dangerous time, I was able to come out of the pandemic a lot better for it. And I think I found different self-care moments without having so many people around. And I think that was important for me, growth. So it challenged me and allowed me now to look at different ways. If I am in a space where I don't have people around, how am I able to self-regulate and be able to find and carve out those moments of self-care?
Yeah, you've got more tools in your toolbox.
What Alain was saying really resonated with me in terms of this idea of moments. I think for me, self-care, I guess I kind of consider it me time. And one of the challenges around figuring out how to have me time was picking a time of day that I knew that I would have an opportunity to do what I needed to do for myself, not being interrupted by life, right? Relationships, somebody who may need something, work kinds of responsibilities. So I think the first thing for me was really kind of think about, well, what is that time? So for me, I get up very early in the morning. I get up before my family is up, and that's my time. So I'll have my breakfast, I'll listen to the news. So this is all part of, I guess, my way of kind of entering the day. And then I'll go into different kinds of activities, whether it be exercise, I'm into music, I play an instrument. And one of the things in all of this that I think about, which was a struggle for me, is I really approached a lot of this from an all or nothing perspective. It's like, if I didn't have the kind of time I wanted to invest in these activities, in more cases than not, I would say, well, I'm not going to be able to do it. I'll try to do it later. And later never happened. So now what I do is like, if I want to do exercises for 15 or 20 minutes or whatever, and I have to run and do something, I'll do 5 minutes of stretches. If I want to play my instrument, which is guitar, and I want to practice for 20 minutes again, and I don't have that time, I'll set a timer for 5 minutes. So I've tried to really limit the excuses that often comes with these kinds of commitments to ourselves, because I think typically, we talk about self-care, but I think Tina was referring to it earlier. It really is work. It's a responsibility.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes being mindful and having this level of awareness and knowing what we need to do doesn't always necessarily relate to doing it. It's, I know I need to do it, but I'm so tired. I know I need to do it, but I did it yesterday. I could probably, skip a day. And these are the kinds of dialogues that I've had that, and I guess in a way, trying to find some balance in all of this.
Yeah. And I think it just bleeds over into every other aspect of our lives. As therapists, as we all are, we all have spoken to that person, that client, that member who is struggling in conflict at work and just can't seem to, or having an issue at home and can't seem to understand why they're so on edge and why they're responding this way. And most times when we go through our sessions, right, it's something internal. It's very rarely external, something that we forgot to pay attention to, something that we forgot to water, a part of us that we forgot to water, a part of us that we weren't true to. And I think that awareness, Steve, is the key to, to all of that. If we can really pay attention to the cues that our body is giving us, our mind is giving us, our soul is giving us, and do that, even if we don't have an hour, 45 minutes or 30 minutes, 20 minutes that we would like to, but engage for 10, engage for 5, and really allow ourselves to have those small indulgences that don't always end up in a maladaptive strategy like chocolate. I love chocolate, but
or French fries.
Or French fries, yeah. Or alcohol. right? Are things that make us feel good for the moment, but don't really give us what we really are craving. Yeah, yeah.
And I'm so happy that you said that, because what resonated with me is the caregiver, right? So the parent that has soccer practice, baseball, swimming, dance, then you're a full-time mom or dad, and you are working many hours, and then that feeling of guilt if you do carve out some time for self-care. Where do we find those spaces to do that without feeling guilty? And you look at our working members that are parents, they've definitely shared with me about a feeling of, when do I have that time? Because any good treatment plan will have self-care as part of the treatment, right? In terms of us carving out that time to do that and not feeling guilty that I can do all of those different things in terms of being a parent and a worker, to be able to provide, but also take time out for self. And whether that's or I'm sharing that self-care time with others, I think is really important. And I want that to resonate with all the listeners.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. One of the quotes that I recently heard and I've kind of adapted is, we can have it all. We can, just not at the same time. And so right now I'm honoring myself as a woman, as a person. I might miss a meeting, or I might miss a day of work, or I might miss a school recital. But in this moment, this is what I need. I need to sit in my womanness. If you're a male, whatever you ascribe yourself to be in that moment, sitting in that and knowing that that's what you need for the moment. And it is all, right? We just can't have everything at the same time. And so that kind of helps me get rid of the guilt. Because we've got so many facets to us, right? And so many giftings that we have and that we want to honor, and we can do it all. We just can't do it all at the same time. And so right now I'm in this lane, and maybe in 10 minutes I'll be in mom lane. And maybe in 20 minutes I will be in educator lane, or whatever that looks like. So yeah.
That's a great point, Selma.
Also thinking about a self-care moment that I have, honing into that word moment. I have moments where, when I'm at the MAP office in the 50th building, right, member assistance program, when I visit my colleagues there, those moments that I share with you guys, where we're sharing in laughter about something, it makes me feel like not only do we all get along very well, but we understand that as serious as our work is, we're allowed to have those moments where we're sharing in laughter, or breaking bread, so to speak, with having lunch with one another. And I think about our colleagues in the schools, and sometimes that lunch break, and I visit schools all the time within my role, sometimes that lunch period is the time to unwind, and you got 50 minutes and you got to make it all up in during that time. And some people are stressing about an exam they got to give the students, or whether they're prepared. And some people are like, I'm carving out this time to nourish myself, to communicate with my folks, and kind of let my hair down and have a good time. And I think that's important, right? That way we don't have to feel like, okay, because I'm at work, I can't carve out a self-care moment.
Yeah. I like that, Alain. I like that.
I agree with Alain. Just because we're at work, we don't have to have a moment to decompress. So at our office, we had a day where we dressed up like our coworker Mike. And that was funny, and it was a way for us to all bond, and we took pictures, and we made sure that it wasn't disruptive to the rest of our coworkers, but it was a moment for us to sort of like forget where we were for a second and just like be in the moment with our coworkers. There are times when we make our TikTok videos and we ask Steve to skip for us, or do something funny. I think it helps break up the day. I think it builds camaraderie. And that everything doesn't always have to be so serious. There's like a lot going on in the world. So having that moment with people that you spend most of the day with to do something fun, I think also I would consider it self-care as well.
The thought that, in listening to what everyone is saying, I mean, the one thought that kind of came up for, well, not one, but the thing that really just came up for me listening to Kathy was this idea of being able to give ourselves permission to do the things that we're talking about. Because I don't know about all of you, but when I'm speaking to members, they'll often say, I need to take better care of myself. So there isn't a level of awareness that they're not, but they're just not able to figure out how to do it. And part of that, I believe, is that they don't know how to give themselves permission. That their priorities have been all about others. And I think, listen, I think for myself, it's a kind of an opportunity to reprioritize, because there is a tendency to kind of fall into taking care of others in the work that we do. But I do think, right, this idea of permission, I think, is really an important one.
Yeah, I agree. I segue into my form of self-care, which are boundaries, because I think they go hand in hand, right? Because if we've got a boundary around, like Alain said, our lunch break, right? And we know that this lunch break is a time where I break bread with other people. It is sacred. And I'm going to have this every day. I'm not going to work on my lunch break, right? I'm not going to take work into that space, because I understand that it's a part of me that needs to be recharged by this experience. And so I'm going to honor it and put it on my calendar, right? And create ways that force us to honor these things, right? And I think boundaries are important. So it's blocked out on my calendar. Not that I can't be flexible, as our dear friend Lexi likes to say, boundaries are permeable, not permanent. So we can be a little flexible with our boundaries, but I think having those boundaries around things that are important to us to be able to do the job that we need to do and fulfill the roles that we need to fulfill is key. And so that's my thing. I love, we've got an open door policy at MAP. I love it. I love that I can just stroll over to Janice or Steve's office and poke my head in and annoy them a little bit. But for that lunch period, I know I've got to close my door just for a few minutes, just for that time when I'm eating, or I want to check in on my kids or my spouse or a friend, and or take 5 minutes to just power down. That is my boundary, right? That's
Hold on. Respectfully, let me interrupt. You guys are closing the door because I come in really loud. So let's admit it. Everybody knows when I'm in the building.
But it's funny, Alain, you say that, and I'm listening to Selma, and I think about all the times I actually try to open everybody's door, and I have to control myself because I want to make that connection. So I guess boundaries go two ways, Selma. Not only do we have to set them, but we also need to respect them.
Yes, I like that. I like that a lot. And I feel that's something that we should be teaching at 2 and 3 and 4 years old, right? To our kids, that, give them verbiage, that I don't like that. I do like this. This is how we can communicate, but I don't like whatever that thing is, and give them that authority to set a boundary. And we as adults, model that for them, I think is important, because if we did, the world would be such a better place.
That is true.
Yeah. So boundaries are very, very important to me. And I'm learning even more, in therapy, Kathy. I know, that was your form of self-care, to really have my therapist hold me accountable, right? And every relationship, going through how am I honoring those boundaries, and where I could, maybe loosen a boundary here and there, or, firm one up on another end. So it's a really good place. I believe that therapy should be all the time. We should be in therapy, whether things are good, whether things are bad, whether things are in between, because it just gives you that perspective that you can't have while you're in the situation. And so it's a great tool, not because we're all therapists. I'm not plugging this because we're all therapists, but I think it's an important tool to be able to help us with that perspective.
Absolutely. And I can't even tell you how I think I even had a session with my therapist recently where I was like, oh, I don't really have much to talk about with her today. So I'm just going to go in there. And then I jump into that session, and then I'm pouring my heart out and I'm like, where did this come from? Where was this hiding? Right. So having that person available.
Yeah. And folks
is
even
really
go
nice.
to therapy, couples therapy, to fight, to argue, right? Because you with that other person, it's kind of hard to hit below the belt with someone when someone else is there, right?
Yeah.
You feel a little bit more responsible when someone else is listening to how you're phrasing certain things. And so, you know, it can be viewed for relationships too, a healthy model for relationships to get, you know, conflicts resolved in a positive way.
Absolutely.
And something as easy as even us having so many similarities when it comes to either dealing with grief or it comes down to relationships. How many of us really share so many bonds? We're a lot more alike than sometimes people give themselves credit. And to know how normal it is to be able to have a similar feeling or experience that someone else is. And I think we always go through that as we talk as colleagues, and we're human, right? As therapists, a lot of folks think we have all the answers and we're just sometimes like perfect, right? And we're blatantly sharing right now our own experiences with us going to seek out mental health support and how much it helps us guide us, not only for self, but also to be better clinicians.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful for you guys, which is what I want to say. You guys are self-care moments for me every day.
Oh, you stop it.
Very
all right, I'm lying,
well,
but
I agree
sometimes
with you.
Sometimes.
And I thank all of you as well.
Oh.
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna transition us off of our little therapy soapbox because I feel like we've been up here for a little while. It is great, it is wonderful, and serves us all very well. But I want to share something that I do for self-care. So
please,
I am all about a bath. Right.
Okay. So, set it up for us. Set the scene.
So there's a candle. There's an iPad with some Netflix. I do Netflix and chill. I'm in the bath.
Okay.
Safely and away from the bathtub because we don't want to get electrocuted.
Yes.
Right. But that time that I would normally spend at the end of the day, whenever I do have time to do this, on the couch watching a show or watching something like that, I instead, every once in a while, will watch that same show, but just like in the bathtub, right? Having the lights dim, having a candle available, adds to that like visual experience. If it's a scented candle, there's also like an aromatherapy aspect to it. Right. And also just like submerging my body in warm water just really feels soothing. It's like, for me, it's a whole body experience. You know, if I'm having a particularly tough week or a particularly tough, you know, whatever time, sometimes even doing a meditation while I'm soaking in the tub. Right. So for our listeners, if you are a UFC member, you also have access to the Calm app for free. Take advantage of it using your NICET ID number. You can go ahead and sign up for Calm for free. So you have instant access to meditations in the moment. Right. So popping in my earphones, listening to a meditation, like a 5-10 minute meditation while soaking in the bathtub, just gives me a moment to like clear my mind, feel with all my senses, a sense of like relaxation and calm. And that's what really charges my batteries. It's like having that whole body experience.
Love it.
It sounds so intentional, you know. I mean, I'm listening to the different steps that you're taking. I mean, it sounds like so by the time you're actually in the water and connecting to all these different things that you've kind of created around the bathtub, it sounds like I can see how that could be a very positive way to take care of yourself.
It is. It's a whole vibe.
Agreed. And I want to add to that, Brother Steve. I believe that was a mind and body and spirit type moment that she's having there.
That is, you are correct.
Look at you, Alain, making the connection.
Yeah, everything comes back full circle. Now, my only thing, while Janice was describing this, right? My only thing I was thinking to myself, if I try this, I know that I'm a little doofy every once in a while. I'm the kind of guy that falls asleep and drown. So I need my wife as a lifeguard in there. I'm gonna need a lifeguard because I would probably drown doing this.
Well, you know, I'm thinking, Alon, you'll wind up electrocuting yourself. That's what I'm thinking.
Yes.
I'm a little on the clumsy side, so Denise, I can picture it, but I need my wife in the bathroom as a lifeguard just in case.
Yeah.
Just-
Fair enough.
Flashlight.
Yeah.
Yes. We do not promote self-harm on this podcast. Please put safeguards in place in order
Yes.
to
Oh,
facilitate
Selma,
the bath experience.
Thank you, Selma, for reeling us in.
I also want to mention, right, this is a self-care like practice that I do maybe like once a month, right? Once, if I'm lucky, once every 2 weeks. It's something that doesn't, get to happen that often.
Mm-hmm.
There are other like small self-care things that I do implement on a daily basis. Like, Salma, you said like boundaries, right? Setting aside some time for myself. But this is more of like it's like a treat of a self-care thing, right? Like some people, I think, Alon, you were talking earlier, like go to do their nails or like go for a massage and things like that, right? This is my affordable massage, like in-home massage, full body experience that I do for myself.
And it's beautiful. I think it's a great way. It's like you said, it's cost effective, right? You
Yep.
just need some water and a candle.
That's right.
And I think, that people underestimate the power of water, right? And whether it's looking at it, whether it's being in it, whether it's just running it over your hands just to feel it, is so key to really connecting us.
It's funny. I agree. I think it's very therapeutic.
Yeah. It grounds us. Us.
Equally as air, as well as air.
Yeah.
Fresh air.
Yeah. I think, on the contrary, when I am having bad moments, right? When I'm frustrated, I'm angry, or whatever the emotion is, sad, I'll often set a timer and acknowledge those feelings and validate them for myself. Set a timer for like 5 minutes, right? We're going to feel them, but not forever, right? When that timer goes off, I'm getting up, I'm changing my location, going outside, I'm putting cold water on my face, I'm doing something to help me get out of that moment. And again, that takes intentionality, that takes planning when you're not in that mood, right? To facilitate that moment when you are struggling. So, it's something that happens to all of us. We get, I wish we could, prevent hard days, bad days, stress. We can't, but we can choose to make our moments better.
Yep.
Absolutely. And specifically, because of the work that I do supporting schools with crisis situations and grief, a lot of members that I've worked with, there's this feeling of those self-care moments not being priority nor deserving, right? It's that guilt of enjoying a moment because someone I cared about passed. And you'll have folks say, I didn't eat, I don't deserve to eat or sleep, or I'm using substances to kind of go through the pain, right? And then that's not healthy, and that's not the appropriate way to deal with it. But even folks, and for the listeners that are on here who may be experiencing grief and loss, to know that it's okay for you to have self-care moments. And as a matter of fact, it's probably more important than to have those self-care moments. So I want to let those listeners know that it's okay. I've grieved, as everyone on this call has grieved to some extent in their life, and to know how important it is at some point when you get there, and through work, obviously, to enjoy those self-care moments, because you still deserve to have them, even though some that you loved passed.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
So I think even right as we're starting to wrap up this conversation, I think it could be a good challenge for whoever's listening into this, right? Start engaging in that self-care now. Take a moment, say to yourself out loud, I deserve self-care. Right? Let's start to give ourselves permission to engage in this crucial practice, because we all need it. We all deserve it. Right. And from what we've all shared and what we've all shared here and what we all hear often is that giving ourselves permission is sometimes the hardest thing. So let's start that now. Let's all give ourselves permission. So take a moment, look yourself in the mirror and just say to yourself, you deserve self-care. You're important.
I signed my permission slip. I signed it.
Well, since we're doing that, at Team Map here, we don't talk about it. We are about it. So I'm gonna start. I deserve self-care.
I deserve self-care.
I deserve self-care.
And I deserve self-care.
Yes, I love it. I love it. And, as Shanice mentioned earlier, please take advantage of the Calm app. I think it's something that's available right at our fingertips. Since we can use it anywhere, right? We can use it on the train. We can also use it in our classrooms, wherever we need to support someone else. We can use it. It's a beautiful tool. So please, please, please.
And take advantage of us. We are available to help to be part of your self-care.
Love it. I love it. Yes, if you're a
Absolutely.
member, we offer free of charge, right? Short-term counseling and referrals if needed for longer term in your community, virtual. We'll help you find some places in person. So we are here for you.
Yes.
Don't hesitate.
That's right.
On behalf of the Member Assistance Program, we are so thankful that you guys tuned in.
Yes, we are. Our program wouldn't exist without the support of all of you, our members. So as everyone mentioned, if you're looking for support, don't hesitate to reach out to MAP. You can find us on the UFT website under Member Assistance Program. And should we go through one more time? I deserve self-care.
I deserve self-care.
I deserve self-care.
I definitely deserve self-care.
I deserve self-care, and you all deserve self-care too.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in this week. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Once again, thank you for joining us for this episode of the Classroom Café. If you are a UFT member, the Members Assistance Program can be reached at 212-701-9620 or at mapinfo@uft.org.